Agada.
Mbijano aganyani.
Albaka.
Mbaka important.
Yo, nga transfer la sto.
Ya transfer la sto.
Ha, code nyingi.
Okay. Important. Nsila ID soto.
Sa soto. Sorry. Agada.
Mbijano bro.
Albaka.
Mbaka.
Bara alla service o tariaka.
Mbare.
Mo ki janna nun kunu bara tariaka.
Janno mi yona forest de bureau. Gambia tonkon na no mbali ya bere. Birim koyna fo kato.
Bari si kodo kino kato nim fo bolong labe to.
56 branches mola soto Gambia jang.
Ha?
Gambia kono ani Gambia bantala bankol. Nko kono kiya bere. Kodo sifa fo palindiro fo nyaadi lafta même na kodi to poto nim kodi maraw. Jannom number 1 di nyonta. Andum fana nata anoda enterprise sotale. Wolam nyindi ko domorol fana kol fana be firale le dadi man domorol ni fana beteat. Gambia dawda yalo ngam fa kendol sotale je.
Wo moyo diat.
Apelenta
barka ni ma lafta nyelen kendol e bina.
Yalo bukani la ko la barka ba.
Yalo ndel chosano lo.
Abarka.
Of owning your dream homes, EJ Investment is here for you. Secure our quality bungalows with 2, 3 or 4 bedrooms, or our story buildings 3 or 4 to 5 bedrooms at very affordable prices with flexible payment plans at our Sanyang Seaview Estate, where you can enjoy the cool breeze with modern infrastructure such as tar roads, covered drainage system, modern electrification with street lights, gated entrance with security posts, and social amenities such as gas station, shopping mall, medical clinic, park, schools, children daycare, and a lot more. Our dedicated team of professionals will keep the estate clean at all times, provide security and patrol team within the estate premises, install latest technologies such as CCTV, Wi-Fi, home network installation, solar panel, and power backup system. Also, check out for our additional home facilities and interior design service such as premium tiling, wall plaster, home landscape, fingerprint home lock, and a lot more. Visit our office at Senegambia Kololi Highway and get a free site visit tour, or contact us on 4464-838. WhatsApp us on 3259220. Or you can visit our Facebook page or Instagram on EJ Investments. EJ Investments, we are first in properties.
When we touch down, better broke down.
With Gamtel G-Fiber, now you can enjoy super fast internet in gigabytes. G-Fiber is affordable, stable, secured, and accessible to homes, businesses, and enterprises. With Gamtel G-Fiber, the future is speed. Gamtel, creating a brighter future in communication.
All right.
Honey, did you remind him that the last time he sent the money, it was not enough to buy all the provisions?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to tell him.
Are you guys talking about money transfer to buy provisions?
Yes.
But don't you know about Baluwo?
Baluwo? What is Baluwo?
Baluwo is a service that your son can use to send provisions directly to you guys from the shop. And you don't have to worry about the exchange rate.
Tell me how Baluwo works.
It's very simple.
Just log on to baluwo.com and shop, or download the app on your phone. You can shop on the website or using the app to buy online basic products for your family and friends. With Baluwo, you decide what your money is spent on. Your money, your choice. Buy online products for your family and friends in the Gambia, Senegal, Nigeria or Mali. Baluwo, better than sending money.
This Saturday, the 12th or the 13th February, which one is it?
13th.
The 13th February. Right, this week we pick up from where we end last week. That is the delay in voter registrations and the IEC's position on the contract that is yet to be awarded to the 3 or 4 companies that are still in the bid. We will talk also about the ICC, that is the International Court of Justice, if you like, which our own very Gambian Fatou Bensouda is heading, but will leave that position in June. So a new prosecutor general, chief prosecutor has been appointed, and Mr. Kerr, British. We will discuss the ups and lows of the ICC under Fatou Bensouda, and inevitably we will discuss the case of the 3 years Jotna, which dominated news this week. And with me in the studio to do that, I have, well, the man in the man in the eye of the storm, Yankuba Darboe. He is a lawyer, and he is also a prominent member of 3 years Jotna, and he also has so many views on Gambian affairs, including, of course, political and legal matters. Yankuba, welcome to the Brunch.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, if you find Yankuba to be biased, maybe you will not find Omar Dibba from the CA, that is Citizen Alliance, also a man who is also having a legal background, actually a law student, if I'm right, and he will help us, you know, with his perspectives on the topics that we're going to discuss. But first, like I said, we will go to election matters. I'm so CA is going to be quite excited about that. Last week we were here, and one of the topics we discussed was that the delay in the voter registration is still not solved because the IEC currently is evaluating the bids of 4 companies. Those are the companies left in the bidding process, and they include a local company and 3 international companies. The IEC's position is that they favored an international company, a Canadian one to be exact, because they said there is a lot of risk involving awarding the contract to a local firm, given the fact that this can lead to data being compromised. The IEC, of course, maintained that these can really lead to problems. Data can be compromised if the contract is awarded to a local company. They also said that in this very tense political situation, it will not be wise to give the contract to a company which has no previous experience. But of course, we heard from the local company in the bid who says that they have partners who have very strong experience and a very good track record in election material production in bigger countries, actually. Now, we now have the finance minister, Mr. Mamurinjai, talking to a select committee in the National Assembly, where he said, and I quote, that the government's That is, of course, the government's desire is to give the contract to the local companies, because he believes this will ensure that the knowledge is transferred to Gambians, and of course, Gambian companies also benefit from it rather than giving it to international companies. I will read for you exactly what the minister said after I have introduced, or after our guests have introduced themselves and greet the audience. Mr. Dibba, starting from you, what has been, if there is any, from the CA in terms of reaction as to this development, IEC, voter delay, etc., etc.?
Thank you very much for having us, Lamin. It's a pleasure to join you here today, and having a co-panelist like Yankuba joined us as senior. CA has been outstanding in its reaction towards the current drama that is between the GPPC and also IEC and the Gambia government. We have raised a lot of concern. In fact, last month we conducted a press conference where we discussed and expressed our disappointment in the manner that the Gambia government and state institutions, including the IEC and GPPC, are handling the production of voter registration cards and voter registration exercises. This is a national tax. And then a state institution like IEC should be well prepared in making sure that the necessary logistics that are needed for the conduction of voter registration are in place well prior, in fact, let me say 6 months before the stipulated date for voter registration. Now, having opened up the floor for bidding and then having companies expressing interest, including a local firm, appointee. And then that being so, there is an opportunity, a very great potential opportunity, that whatever comes from him is a message from his master. So his interference in such issues are really disturbing. But we want to say that the IAC should make sure that information regarding this whole thing is being transmitted to the general public. People cannot live in dark. The 2021 presidential election is not a joke or a drama. It is a high-stake election. The only election that could be highly staked than this, it's our 1970 Republican status election. So we expect that the government does better. We expect the IEC to be open enough to tell us what exactly is going on, even though we know very little about what's going on, but we expect that there be a channel through which information regarding this saga would be transmitted to people, so that we can have the belief that the elections would not be manipulated. We can have the belief that the elections will be fair, transparent, and there would be no interference from the government. But right now, those are the signs we can see. We can see cheating. We can see the possibility of rigging. We can see the possibility of manipulation. And we will make sure as a party, the Citizens Alliance will make sure that we take our ground solidly to make sure that the 2021 presidential election unfolds as expected and within the remits and ambits of the laws of the Gambia.
Okay, let's see. The IEC, when they were recently of late contacted, said they don't want to comment on the bidding process. But this is what Chief Electoral Officer Sambu Janjai had once said in the National Assembly when he was talking to the select committee responsible for IEC and other matters. He said this, and I quote, he said, considering the risks attached to local partnerships, IEC will not condone awarding the contract to a beginner, since local contractors often belong to a political party, and when they do printing, the voter data ends up with politicians, and they really can tamper with it. This has been the concern of the IEC. From the onset, they had preferred this ESC. I think this is this Canadian company. They said ESR. It has a track record, and they said they have experience. So, but then the overall thing is, they said they believe that giving it to the local contractor is we can run the risk of them compromising the data to the political parties they may really support. And this is what, so let's listen to what the minister said before we continue, Yanks. The minister said this, he said, and I quote, "The bottom line and my whole argument, elections are held every 5 years, and whatever we are requesting or they are telling me that Gambian companies cannot do. Even if a Gambian company cannot do it, they can partner with an international company and build capacity. That is my whole argument." He said, "It hurts. This is taxpayers' money. Gambians are paying the money, and it's time we take the money, we ship it. Okay, we take the money anytime, we ship it outside, and those companies coming here are commercial firms. They will never hand over that technology to our own guys. So how do we build capacity?" So I am insisting that we go further, to legislate it for the local contents. The minister said, even though Gambia government has no plan to compromise quality, but it prefers Gambian companies to be part of the process. If Gambian companies cannot do it, they can partner with international companies and then knowledge transfer to the local partner so that we can boost our own companies and make sure that we will be able to compete internationally. So that's the argument of the finance minister to the select committee of the National Assembly. He said, even though the government really really prefer quality, but they however believe that this is taxpayers' money. And each time we award contracts, we give it to companies who will just ship the money away and the technology. Gambians will not get the technology, and they won't benefit from the money that their own taxpayers produce. That was the argument. Yankuba.
Thank you very much. I think the concern from the minister's statement there is that of the word, if the Gambian company cannot do it, they can partner with an international body. That itself is a big concern to us. That looks like some form of apprenticeship in a year when we are very late into the elections now, because the time that we have to the scheduled election date for presidential elections is very short.
Yes.
We don't have room for training and apprenticeship and all kind of amateurism that I think they are trying to present here. I think the taxpayers, the Gambian taxpayers, want not just quality, but they want security. They want peace. That is more important to them. And elections bring chaos and tensions. And the IEC, if I remember, one of the quotes or reasons they've given, they gave examples of what happened in Kenya and in Ghana. They said in those countries, during the election years, what they've discovered is that the opposition parties ended up having the election registration or the register, and they did not know how they come by the information. It definitely ought to come from the local partners that they were dealing with. Now, it's not only that IEC prefers this company, it's because they've worked with them in the past. And as they said, the devil you know is sometimes better than the angel you don't know. And this is a high stake, as Dibba said, it's a high stake election. You cannot afford to be complacent. You cannot afford to give chances or take risks. You have to go with that sense of security and assurance that this company that I've dealt with, they understand our terrain, they know the stakes, they know what we are up against, and they know the time is against us, and they know they already have that history. The background is there because they've done this before, and they've got some database on the Gambian electorate. So it's a matter of updating that database and then issuing a new card. To say that we need to contrast that and then give a Gambian company a chance. You can do that if you have maybe 2 years. And then let them go out and search for the companies, or if they have companies, let them finalize their logistics, because one of the things you would discover is that if you're dealing with an international partner, you will have to go through some sort of negotiation.
Well, they said this local company, when they had their say after the IEC's observation, they said they have a partner, I think, I forgot, Genka is the name, who has quite a formidable reputation around the world for organizing elections in bigger populations. For example, Tanzania, where you have a voting population of about 30 million. And they said if that company really can do that kind of work, so they are perhaps the best, or in fact more qualified than the international companies in the bid, and those are the ones they intend to partner.
The difficulty that you have with that is we don't know how far into the talks they have gone with Genka, and how quickly can Genka deploy, because I think Genka, being a company that has never been to the Gambia, will themselves need time to come to the Gambia, familiarize themselves with the country, and then...
Well, they said they have been to Ghana, where Genka really had some work, and they really check, you know, they look at their suitability, and they found them to be really top-notch when it comes to, you know, this kind of jobs.
If they talk about Ghana, that then goes on to support IEC's argument that Ghana was having a local one, and they moved to international one with Genka. But I think in any event, we have to have trust in the IEC. They've handled the 2016 elections, and then I don't think there is any Gambian who was dissatisfied with that. Even Jammeh at some point accepted it. He said the Gambians have decided.
Elections,
yeah, so if they were able to handle that impartially and earn the admiration of many, if they said, leave us to make that decision as to who we can work with to conduct the 2021 elections. If I'm not being hypocritical, and this is the electoral body that conducted the election that got me into power, I wouldn't have any issue to question them now. Imagine if Yahya Jammeh should say, I wanted my own company, or I want Ahmed Samba's company to deal with this in 2016. How appalled Gambians would have been about it. So what has changed now for us to now...
But the government is not saying that they own this company or this company. They didn't indicate anywhere that this company is theirs or they want this company. They're just saying that perhaps the local company should be given the opportunity.
I think the government have become lobbyists for this company. The company is not making much noise. It's the government that is making noise.
Well, the government actually put up a defense when the IEC came from National Assembly, and that is the summary I gave you. They said, you know, the company they want to partner with internationally has the best record compared to all the three in the bid at the moment, the three international companies in the bid. But let me have your personal perspective now. Remember, you are not representing the UDP. You are known to be, well suspected or known to be a diehard UDP supporter. But I want your individual...
I'm a national executive member of...
You are an executive now, yes. I forgot, in fact. So, but please put the UDP cap off here. Okay. he is entitled to a party now. And tell me your perspective. Do you think, last week we had Sam Sar here, Sharif Samsudin Sar, he's suggesting like, you know what, the way things are going, he doesn't think there can even be elections, because you look at the timetable, voter registration of general one, you have, if there is at all a referendum, but then there surely must be a registration of diaspora people, you know, you have the revising codes, you have all sort of sensitization, and you want to introduce ballot paper. He said this thing is so cumbersome, and with very little time, that it is impossible to hold elections now. And then he said, in fact, he went to the point to say, which is a very wild imagination, that what Mr. Barrow should have done is just to say, well, I'm calling it quits. I will organize your election next year and go, which is not possible. But what do you think, given the time we have before December, which is just 10 months or so away, do you think IEC can complete all these programs?
8 months.
8 months?
8 months, yes. 8 months now. Yeah. I think up to somewhere June, they will be able to.
Up to June.
Up to June.
So
but
if anything is not accomplished after June,
if it is
well,
not
they said they had pretty much the same time, or even I think a shorter period in the 2011 elections, and they were able to conduct a general election, and it was successful. They believe they can do it, even with this.
I think up till June they should be able to do it if they are able to register people before June. Yeah. If they're not able to conduct the registration before June, it is going to be almost impossible. We will run into a very risky environment, because what will happen is, if anything should happen, other people will complain that this was not conducted properly because the IEC didn't have enough time, and therefore everything was done in a haste, and then as a result, they have been more or less prejudiced. That I can see a lot of parties complaining about. So I don't think beyond June it is feasible. I don't think it is feasible beyond June at all.
Well, I think, what is the position of the CA? I mean, at this point, I must say, we invited another political party, the NPP, through Mr. Shehu Mbalo, but unfortunately he's got an engagement in Comba South and cannot come. So if you are wondering why NPP is not here, we've reached out to them, but they couldn't make the appointment because Mr. Mbalo, who would have loved to come, is tied up with some event in Comba South. However, the viewpoint that the government has is that they don't have any intention, and they have not shown anywhere to interfere in the IEC work. And even the IEC, even President Barrow himself had said in one of his talks, he said he had warned the IEC not to delay elections and to take elections seriously. Mr. Barrow was quoted as saying that. So perhaps it is really acceptable, or perhaps it's true that he himself, rather than in fact interfering, he's concerned that all the process should go according to plan. What is the position of the CA in terms of limited time we have for the elections?
Well, we expect that there would be a credible and fair election. That's our expectation. And then I don't think the government of the Gambia under Mr. Adama Barrow would do a complete aberration of our constitution by failing to stage a presidential election in 2021.
You can't see that happening.
I don't really think that he would pour that insult on our faces. Yeah. I actually find it difficult to however trust the promise that he is going to make sure that his government doesn't interfere in the electoral process of the Gambia. I mean, a man that has reneged on a king-size national promise of stepping down in 3 years is not someone that one can listen to and feel that is, what he is saying, he really means it. Okay. So that part of it is totally out. I mean, so we really expect that the IEC would conduct election. We want to urge the Gambia government to know that election next year or this year in 8 months is not a joke in this country. We are ready for it. We are going to make sure that we stand by our readiness, and we're going to make sure that we put institutions to account on what they ought to offer to the Gambian citizens, including registering them, providing polling stations for them, and allowing them to exercise their constitutional right of voting a president in the country. So we will stand by this, and then we urge the government to really go by the IEC calendar by providing the necessary logistics arrangements and facilitating the processes that are necessary for the staging of 2021 presidential election. Okay,
let's go back to the election material contract business. The IEC, on another occasion, said it is the government that's not cooperating. I mean, they had this problem with the Gambia Public Procurement Authority, who insisted that they must include certain criteria in the bidding process, some of which have now been actually addressed. But then this, I mean, the finance ministry cannot release the budgets, the money that's needed for registration without GPPA clearance. The IEC wanted to circumvent the matter by borrowing, but they said the government would not guarantee. So, I mean, they couldn't get the loan they want from a bank. So they're actually starting to blame, the government for delaying the process. I mean, government is really insisting on due process. That is, I mean, you have to have compliance with, you have to comply with the GPPA, that is the authority established by an act of parliament, and you are no exception. The IEC is saying that we don't want to be dictated to by anybody, even including the president. So they're now partially blaming the government for the delay. What do you take home from that?
Procurement activities and procedures are already provided for by our law. Yeah. And then being an independent institution doesn't mean that the IEC is above the Gambian laws.
Yes.
The laws are there to facilitate the manner in which IEC should conduct itself as a body in the execution of its functions. So I really hope that IEC as a body will respect these laws and abide by every single requirement in that procurement process, so that the exercise that they look up to would be able to will be successful. However, I really feel so amazed. I felt so amazed when I heard you say that the finance minister is so much urging IEC to to in fact award contract to the local government.
Well, he said his argument is that the local companies must be given the opportunity.
And he advanced reasons.
Yeah.
One is transmission of knowledge. And then also the prevention of capital flight.
Exactly.
But are these really excuses for risking our elections? I mean, how sure are we that that company has been assessed, and then it is established that they have the necessary logistics, the capacity, and the technique, even though they're going to partner with international companies to conduct. How sure are we that these things are readily available with that company?
Let me ask you, political parties, since you all converge in IPC, that is the inter-party conference, has this matter reached you people, and what has been your party's reaction to it?
I doubt very much this matter had reached inter-party committee yet.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think inter-party was talking about the electoral reform, that bill. And then that hasn't even concluded. They
Election bill. Well, the Minister of Justice has been in Parliament saying that the delay is caused by you people in IPC. That you said your inputs were not put in the order draft, which was in fact validated. They had to do it all over again. He said the delay is caused by you people, the parties in the IPC.
You see, the problem with this government, they don't like to take responsibility. They like to deflect and pass it on to some other people, their opponents and most. But one of the things I think they need to be very careful with this IEC issue. Firstly, the head of GPPCA is related to Barrow. And then the government...
that's allegedly. That cannot be...
Well, allegedly. And then the other thing is, they are... the government is a player in these elections. You cannot be a player, and you are telling the referee, I want you to choose this one to be to be your partner.
Yes.
And then the opposition do not have any say like that, and you are going to play with us in that field.
Oh, I see.
So I think they need to be very careful and stay completely out of this and leave it to IEC to determine. And if the IEC said, this is the people we are going to work with, all that the government should say, are you happy with them? Are you sure they can help you with this? Fine, let's go with it. I don't see a reason why the government trying to impose someone else to work with the IEC. If you are in the opposition, you definitely have to support IEC.
Well, the government did not say they are imposing. The finance minister actually said his argument is that opportunities should be given to the local companies. So you politicians here, opposition politicians here, are calling that interference.
We need to have an alternative in this case. I believe when they're going in for, when their supreme interest in their argument is to ensure transmission of knowledge from foreign companies to our local companies, they should consider doing that in the local government elections, and not the presidential elections.
Indeed.
And then they have a great period in this regard to make sure that they institute processes through which they will be able to provide the necessary equipment, facility, and capacity for this local company, so that it can be awarded contract for whatever purpose they want to do as far as the election is.
The local company itself has not been vetted properly. Are they MPP? Are they? We still don't know any of those things.
Well, I mean, everybody wants to really, as much as possible, take politics out of this bidding process. The four that are left, three of them international companies and the Gambian one, at the moment they are evaluating their merits and merits of their. So I'm sure the crux will come when the IEC finally decide which company. What unfortunately happened in this case is that, I mean, they made it clear.
But if they are constrained in this way...
But from their pronouncements, we could see that they intend to be independent, because one, they told the people that when they felt that the GPP is conditioning them, they told the GPP that no, even the president cannot interfere in our bidding process. They said, no, you have to obey it. In fact, part of the problem was the initial bidding process. The IEC, the bidding process had said, if you have international partners, you should not allow. If you are going to depend on international partners, you should not be allowed. So the GPP felt that that is discriminatory. I mean, that was the bone of contention. So that's why people accuse the IEC of always wanting to give it to this company at all costs. But then, as it stands now, they are evaluating the 4 bids. Let's hope in the near future they will come with an outcome. and then the public will be able to know. But finally, on this matter, this presidential election is on the 4th December. We have, I said 10, you said 8. 2 have gone, all right.
Because we're
8 months to go.
And it's just in the beginning of December.
Yes.
4th, so.
We're talking about diaspora, and the Supreme Court recently, both of you are lawyers, made an important ruling, which is that, so now, even though it exists in our electoral law, what weight did the Supreme Court judgment given to the right to be registered as a Gambian, even if you are living abroad?
Let me start with
yes. You must be following the Supreme Court interpretation that Bakari Darboe and others, you know, they wish the Supreme Courts to declare that you can be really registered and be voted for, you know, in an election, even though you are not resident in the country.
Indeed. I mean, it is a right. The question is, how do you enforce that right?
Exactly.
If the IEC said we don't have money to go and do the registration in the diaspora, or if they turn around and said we do not have the time, the time is not there for us to conduct that, then the people affected, the parties affected, that would be the diasporans.
Yes.
They could probably take a court action and then try to enforce it. But the difficulty with it is if not away, but that would take time, A, and then B, it's what can the courts do? Because if they said we don't have money, you cannot enforce an order on someone when he cannot perform it.
But what if the money is already budgeted by the National Assembly? I guess
then they have to go. If the money is there, they have to try, because it is their right, and their rights have to be respected, and then the IEC should respect.
What is the meaning of this other thing that you can be voted for and be voted once you are away? Originally, if you are away, you can't be, for a number of years, you cannot contest elections in the Gambia. Has that changed now with this ruling?
No. That one is a constitutional provision.
Oh, okay.
It's part of the qualifications.
Oh, okay.
The residential requirement of 3 years prior to the election. So
that still stands.
That still stands. That is a constitutional provision. It cannot be overruled by Supreme Court judgment.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to still with legal matters. You're a lawyer. You're a lawyer student. I am a law student. I want you to leave your political, sentiments or affiliations in this one too. The ICC is going to have a new chief prosecutor in Kerr. It's just been announced yesterday, and our own compatriot Fatou will be leaving in June. I want us to Gambianize this debate a little bit, and then we can also internationalize it. Some of the problems that she encountered, for example, the case of the Kenyan elections 2007 case, you had criticisms from the West and former President Trump not wanting her courts to investigate American troops while they were fighting in the Middle East and other places. All this has become challenges to her, and she had been strong. But what would you take home from her tenure at the ICC and all these issues? Has she really succeeded? Or do you think the ICC really should change its focus so that it wouldn't be criticized all the time of targeting African leaders instead of, the powerful like the Europe and Americas? Even Israel was actually in the picture, quarreling with them not long ago when they wanted to investigate alleged, crimes against humanity in the Palestinian territories. What do you think from that?
Okay, the IEC has...
The ICC, you are still obsessed with election matters.
Exactly. Politicians are like that.
Their affiliations are similar, yes.
ICC actually has a jurisdiction, and then its jurisdiction, it's absolutely very limited. I would not try to capacitize it in character by looking at Bensouda as the chief prosecutor, but I will look at the body as an establishment or an institution. It has really done great for the aspect of focusing on Africa. I think we really need to know that the jurisdiction of ICC, which includes prosecuting crimes against humanity, war crimes, genocide, and so on, these impunities are more often in Africa than any part of the world. And then for that reason, focus has to be, in fact, it is African leaders that welcome the establishment of ICC and the beginning of its work in 2002. The same people now are turning to say, you're focusing more on us because we are having more of these crimes done in our continent. The other aspect is we need to really know that the 5 permanent members in the Security Council obviously have veto power over what decisions the council can take. Now, ICC as a body
meant to be independent.
It ought to be independent. Yes, I totally agree with you on that. Now, it doesn't just jump up and try to prosecute people. Sometimes matters are brought before it by the Security Council. Now, how can members of a council that have veto power take them own selves to a court? They wouldn't really do that. Now, the focus
but
is
that's where the argument, that's where the unfairness is, perhaps. President Trump did not want the court to investigate activities of American troops in Afghanistan and other places. And he said, whoever supports that idea, they're going to withdraw aid, or he denied visas to ICC, ICC staff, etc.
Now, let's look at
He's trying to bully them because, it's powerful nation, etc.
Obviously, that's why I said that the 5 permanent members cannot be dragged to the court when they hold that veto power. Now, the political and economic spheres and characters of these countries are so completely different from Africa. Their institutions are different from Africa. So it's very, very, it's really hard for there to be anything like a war crime, genocide in any of these countries.
But they are aware.
They do commit it outside in the name of protecting those territories. You're talking about Syria. There is an ongoing war.
Syria,
that's why they're
Afghanistan.
There. And then the people that
but then the war crime is a war crime.
No, but the perpetrators,
no matter what.
The perpetrators of those wars are the ones who should be held responsible.
And that includes them too. They went into the war, took sides with one entity or the other, and they did the same things. They killed people, civilians, innocent people.
Well, the intervention is always through a resolution.
Yes.
So that means they don't just jump up to do, but the UN Security Council will give them the clear green light to go ahead. In that case, obviously, there is no way you can have a ground to say that you're the perpetrators of this crime, but you dare to end that crime, even though it will take lives at some point. But that's the situation.
But she tried actually to defy or not to listen to those those intimidations from them. But she couldn't make any much progress.
I think the problem with Fatou Bensouda, with all respect to her, is that of her own treatment of her own previous president in this country.
I'm coming to that.
And that, I think, that is what undermines her credibility a bit. But with regards to the Western troops, you see, just like Dibba said, impunity is something that is very common in Africa. You have leaders who are above the laws in their lands. Most of these troops, no matter where they've gone to, they're still below the laws of their countries.
Still observe the Geneva Convention, etc.
Yes. So whenever they are accused of committing these offenses, if it is established in their own countries,
they do their own.
They get prosecuted. Yes. Like UK prosecuted some of their own soldiers for crimes that they've committed against Iraqis. You see, our leaders in Africa are above the law. We never heard of president. In fact, they put it in the constitution. Like we have in our constitution, they are immune.
Well, the
you
Supreme
cannot
Court,
prosecute. You cannot.
At least our Supreme Court have thrown away this. But yes, importantly,
so that is something that.
Importantly, I was saying we will internationalize and domesticate her tenure in the office. Yes, she came under local criticism, if you like, of not really prepared to regard or to consider some of the human rights abuses that happen on the Jammeh as, crimes against humanity. But she said at the time that they just don't jump and investigate a case. It has to reach certain criteria. It was her belief that at that time, demonstrations, especially the April 16 demonstration, etc., have not reached the threshold to trigger his court or her courts to investigate and classify it. That's what she said, and that's what her office said at the time.
She was just making excuses.
Well, at the time he said there wasn't enough information that torture was commonplace, as SFL is now discovering on the
At the
TRRC.
TRRC, exactly.
Yeah, but at the time there wasn't. Now, what she said when she was here at the launching of the TRRC, she did promise that her office, after everything, and there are recommendations that borders on anything that her office might deal with, they will cooperate and help. So perhaps we are jumping the gun. We should have waited until the TRRC is finished and see whether the ICC may be interested in their recommendations.
No, you see, to bring a case to the ICC under the Rome Statute, because the Rome Statute is what established ICC. It has to be, as Dibba said, Security Council resolution or a referral by another state, a member state,
in this
a
case,
signatory state,
yes,
or by her own offices, the prosecutor's office's own initiation. Now, she knew that torture was systematic and it was happening in the Gambia.
She said her office didn't perhaps, at the time,
then she was not reading Amnesty International reports, their annual reports. She was not reading them.
And she herself had been Attorney General. Perhaps that must have given her some little understanding.
She just didn't want to do it. She just didn't want to do it because Jammeh gave her the favor. Jammeh helped her to secure that position, and she was returning those favors back.
She was criticized for not wanting to go after Jammeh.
Indeed, and that is the whole issue. That is the main reason.
But
that is something that she doesn't want to.
Don't you think if she has still been there? Well, she's going out in June, and the TRRC report might be ready at that time. So she may not be the prosecutor when, if at all, there have been any referral of Gambia to the ICC. She may not be the prosecutor at that time because the ICC recommendation, the TRRC recommendation may come in June. But then, do you think, if at all, there are cases bordering crime against humanity, etc., and they are referred to the ICC, if she was there, do you think now, with all the new information she might get, she might now be willing to get her office to investigate or to...
In fact, I think that is one of Israel's criticisms
of her, yeah.
That she doesn't want to prosecute Jammeh or would not do anything about Gambia.
Yes,
but is going after other people.
Other people.
Yeah, so I don't think she would have. I think there is a skeleton in the cupboard that she is trying to hide between her and Jammeh. I don't think the whole idea of prosecuting Jammeh is something that she never wants to contemplate. Yes.
And then I try to imagine what kind of threshold she means.
Well, she said at the time,
torture and it's a crime against humanity.
Yeah, but she said at the time, and you could say that for her, she probably didn't have that information that torture was so widespread and like Esafal is unarched now.
It was even the man in Pluto was aware of torture in the Gambia.
There has to be a threshold, like 5 million people.
Well, she said the threshold wasn't enough at the time for her office to...
Torture is just torture.
Yes.
It only has to be systematic, and there is nothing being done about it domestically.
And she's also been criticized for her job in the Kenyan affairs, where some witnesses were bribed, to testify against Deputy President Ruto, etc., etc.
Uhuru Kenyatta, I think.
Kenyatta
himself.
It was both Uhuru and...
I think it was both of them. Yes.
Both of them, yes.
Both of them were.
Yes, how do you see that case? She didn't seem to come out with much gloss out of that handling.
The thing is that the obtainment of evidence in countries where such crimes are committed is usually very problematic. So it's problematic, and then I don't think it's ethical to be bribing witnesses to have evidence on them.
Yeah.
Actually, the court should have instituted better measures, but this was the accusation leveled against her, and then I hope it comes out untrue.
I don't believe it, but then it is really really an unfortunate.
And our lead counsel was the prosecutor.
Yes,
and then he switched and then became the main defendant. And he defended well.
Well, this is your domain.
So
all right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's now turn to 3 years Jotna, and again, I will have to depend more on Mr. Dibba to give me. Because you are a keeper. But first, the matter is no longer in court. You people have been discharged after the state withdrew the case, but then you got rearrested. Let me start with you. What does your party, it must said, actually came out with a press release, not only calling for the dropping of the charges, but you also condemned the act as undemocratic, as illegal. Can you explain why do you think the state was wrong, or the police were wrong, in rearresting them again?
Well, I think it was clear in our press release that the withdrawal of the case, it's ill-fated, it's malicious, and then it's a big surprise to us, because it's like the government is now willing to use procedures for punishing people, seizing their liberty, and also keeping them under custody for no reason, and so on and so forth. It's quite unfortunate. But then I know quite well that the Section 64 of the Criminal Code allows the prosecutor to enter null prosecute, to withdraw a case that is before a verdict is passed or a judgment is made. And that's exactly what they have done. So that is quite legal. But our position is, for what purpose have they done it? Is there anything new that has emerged that should warrant the prosecutor to actually enter that kind of, to actually enter a null? I mean, that's a big question. Is it because they're doing it because they lack faith or they lack hope in the outcome of the case? That is one question. The other thing is, the prosecutor is a prosecutor is directly under the Attorney General. That means, in fact, according to our law under Section 64, sub 2 of the Criminal Code, the prosecutor is to abide by the expressions of the Attorney General. That means the state is quite so well aware of what is happening. Now, why did they arrest these people even though they withdrew the case? It's a big question. Did they arrest them to detain them? Did they arrest them to take them back to Mile 2? Did they arrest them in the interest of conducting new investigations in the matter that they couldn't have done before? And that would be surprising to say, because we expect the state to be fully prepared to make its defense against these people in making sure they win the case. Now, if that turns out to be something different, we obviously believe that what the state has done is to detain them, is to seize their liberty, and then it is sending a signal into our hearts as the public that the criminal justice system could be compromised. Our confidence in the justice system has been seriously, and I mean seriously, stamped on by the office of the prosecutor. And then I hope that the Gambia government would not take any further step. The state would not take any further step in detaining them in Mile 2 or any part of this country. We hope that they will be set free, or the state would make, in fact, I would prefer that the state come out and tell the Gambian people that what we have done is something that we have come into power to erase. But instead we are bringing it back.
So is that the lawyer in you or the politician in you when you said that?
It's both in me. I mean, our party is not here for supporting wrongs. We are here to correct them. And then it doesn't matter who is affected, whether you are in party A or B or C. In the end, it's about the Gambia. And then we don't want this act to be repeated in the Gambia. We hope that the justice system would be renewed in such a manner, particularly the criminal justice system, that citizens would have confidence, they would have faith, and they would admire the justice system, and they would have big confidence in the manner and the way that cases before the court are handled, and then the government would make sure that it protects the rights of citizens. It doesn't subject them to procedural tortures, procedural complacencies that would seize their liberty and then sadly make them wallow in jail in Mile 2. That's quite unfortunate. That's not our expectations in the New Gambia.
Good. Now let's talk to Yankuba. Well, I want the lawyer in you, and not the 3 years 3 years Jotna member, because that would be difficult for you to take that out. But you said you actually were very angry, and you've been criticized for making indecent comments, to put it mildly, after this incident. First of all, people said you should even apologize for that too. Would you apologize?
I think I would seize the opportunity to do that.
To apologize.
Yes.
You definitely went over.
I was too emotional.
You were too emotional.
And then my emotions got the better of me. And then obviously I said things that I definitely should not say.
So you said it first on this platform. You are apologizing for
I apologize for those indecent comments. And I apologize to anyone who was offended by them, who felt disappointed by them, because I had a lot of people who called and then they were disappointed, because there are a lot of people who have great admiration for me and whenever respect as well. Whenever they hear or they see any video about me, they want to listen to it. So I exposed them to profanity, which is very, very unfortunate.
Exactly.
And I apologize wholeheartedly and profoundly that I am not making any excuses for them.
And your critics say perhaps these more the reasons, perhaps even when the state wants to really forgo the matter, but utterances such as yours would make them angry, and they too will leave the law and take their hearts.
No,
or their emotions.
But you see, the state needs to be professional. This is not against the state. This is about the laws. The state's role is to enforce the laws of the land, not to take their own personal emotions. We are the ones who have been affected here.
So you had
we have emotions. We should have them. You can understand our situation. You cannot just go into a court and then you have an insincere state, government, prosecutors. Prosecutors are meant to be professional. What you expect of prosecutors when they're prosecuting you, even if they have evidence that would aid your case, they will still disclose it. You see what I mean? That's what a professional prosecutor does. Yes. You don't just say, oh, I have this information. If I put it out there, it will help the defendant. Therefore, I am going to withhold it just to make sure he goes to jail. That is not professional. A professional prosecutor makes sure he is fair to the complainant and that of the defendant, because he is the state. He represents the state. He ensures that the law is enforced appropriately, not inappropriately. What they've done is unprofessional. It is an abuse of process. It is quite simply very, very wrong, and that's why we got emotional, because if you're a lawyer, you know what is happening. It hits you very hard.
So exactly what happened is that the state withdrew the case, all right? And the court accordingly discharged you.
To tell you the truth, the state never had a case in this case from the outset. They had witnesses. Their witnesses testified that they did not see any of the accused persons doing the alleged offenses, i.e. demolishing the sketch.
I don't know what was to talk into the substance matter like this, although it's no longer in court.
It is no longer in the court, so we are free to discuss it.
But it may come back, we never. We hope it doesn't come back.
But it is important that the Gambian people know the truth. That is their right to information. All right. You see what I mean? Okay. Now, if you are, you know, the crux of their case is that these people are the leaders. That's mean that goes against, and this is one of the reasons why the judge told them that is against natural justice. You can't hold people
and say these are the leaders.
Yeah, you can't hold them accountable for someone else's conduct. That is just against natural justice. But this is what their witnesses have been saying, that if you ask them, yes, why have you brought them here? Because they're the leaders. That is just simply, so when they realized that the case was not going in their way, they decided not to come. And that's what offended the judge. The judge foreclosed them and then said, defense, open your case. Defense opened the case. And then defense said, we have no case to answer because they've not identified us. They have not said we did this or that. Why should we even, because to open a defense at that point, we are more or less being asked to prove our innocence.
That's right.
Prove our innocence rather than, and that goes against the constitutional presumption of innocence until you are proven guilty. The burden is on them, not us to aid them. So in a situation, then they turn around and said, well, we are filing nolle prosequi. That would have been appropriate because you know, as a good prosecutor, that my case is not going well. But in this case, what happened in fact is, this is how bad it is because they already appealed to the Court of Appeal. They have an appeal at the Court of Appeal. We are meant to go back to the Court of Appeal on the 26th for adoption of briefs on that appeal.
I see.
So what you've done is you appeal to the Court of Appeal. They have not even looked at that case. You pulled the plug on everything and said, we withdraw. And then the next minute, you now want to reinstitute the same charges. What happened to the appeal at the Court of Appeal. So it's a whole lot of mess that they've done.
Okay, let's listen to the police, because was it the police or the government which?
It's not the police, it's the state.
Okay, let's listen to what the police said. They said, this from the police communication unit through the public relations officer. He said, we can confirm the arrest of members of the 3 years Jotna group under prosecution at the Banjul High Court. The state has filed, what you said, the nolli
prosecute.
Nolli prosecute, the Latin word. Why don't you people, you lawyers, break this jargon?
It quite simply means nullification of prosecution.
Okay. So I move on. Well, I'm afraid I have to start it again. You know, you have this. Okay. We can confirm the arrest of the members of the 3 years Jotna group under the prosecution of the Banjul High Court. The state has filed, a case to stop the prosecution in accordance with 64 of the Criminal Procedure Code, leading to their discharge. The police arrested them as a result of an information filed at the High Court by the state. Charges preferred on them includes unlawful assembly, riotous demolition of buildings, and rioting after proclamation, contrary to Section 69, 76, and 74 of the Criminal Code laws of the Gambia. Meanwhile, they have been granted bail in accordance with the law. So the police said they arrested them as a result of an information filed at the court by the state. And the charges remain the same charges?
So they are the same charge, word for word. In fact, when the police came, they were reading the indictment that was before the previous High Court.
So the police said they arrested you because of the information filed
no, because the court. The ministry, the prosecutors, state prosecutors, they decided to, and this is Balo and Yusuf, they decided to file a new one before they even filed the Nole. This is what happened, so that we will not be allowed to leave the premises. The police can, you know, when we got there that morning, we knew something was not right, because paramilitary was everywhere.
Oh, I see. So
they were literally everywhere. It was like 2 truckfuls of them.
Yes.
About 30 or so of them there.
So you knew that, look, something is not right.
Something is not right, but we did not know. So when we got there, because they were meant to come and do their reply, then we say, Yusuf stood up and said, the state had filed a Nole. I said to these people, I said, we are going to be arrested on our way out.
Because you knew that was going to be the...
I knew straight away that was a trick. But you see, in the police report, they said they filed it under 64. That was actually wrong. They filed it under 85. Under 64, if they had filed it under 64, I believe it's 68 or so. 64. If they had filed it on that, then the judge would have been able to, the judge would be able to consider whether to acquit or discharge. And if discharged, they can reinstitute, because that is a decision made by the judge. But under 85, they have the constitutional power to initiate prosecution, to take over prosecution and continue, and then discontinue. But you see, there it is not explicitly stated that they can reinstitute again on the same charges. So this is one of the reasons why, if the matter goes back to the High Court, then we would have to seek a referral of the case to the Supreme Court.
What now will be the fate of the case? Perhaps you people might go dragged back to the court again.
No, we'll be dragged back to the court, that one, because they already filed it at the High Court. So we'll have to go to the High Court. I don't know. I was told the name of the judge that is going to be before.
They said some Ghanaian judge or
something.
Yeah,
Akimbong or Achimbong.
Okay, since the matter is not in court yet, we can, like you have done, your position was that these charges should be dropped. Perhaps in the interest of peace, if the government or some mediator or some, somebody who concerned with the, the reconciliation or something, reach out to you people to sit down and trust this matter. Like I saw a commentary, one of the lawyers is saying that perhaps the president should use the independence anniversary celebrations to drop all these charges that borders on political, cases or etc. etc. You agree?
I mean, we will appreciate it if the government don't take us back to the dark days. I mean, the era of impunity should really end in the country. I don't know whoever made that remark, but I think it would be of good for the president to once again or in fact for the first time.
Yeah.
Well, we saw us there. We're going to have a justice system that is going to be independent. He's going to make sure he safeguards the rights of Gambian people. He safeguards their interest and their welfare, and also promote a democratic country. I mean, we cannot have a dispensation that is a mixture of dictatorial tendencies and laconic procedures.
Tomorrow democracy.
Yeah. That's so disheartening. That's not what we deserve. We deserve better than that. So it is a good idea, and I hope he listens to it.
Yeah.
And he do as suggested.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen. Yankuba Darboe of, proscribed 3 years journal. You know, they said we journalists should not talk about 3 years journal because you are proscribed. We said, no. There is no law that we can talk about because we haven't seen the law that proscribed them. Anyway, Omar Dibba of Citizen Alliance, thank you all very much for being on the brunch. Like I said, we have the police through their statement on the case, and we were supposed to have been joined by Mr. Mbalo of NPP, but unfortunately he is tied up in some other activity. Now, we'll be back next week. I hope we will be here with another very interesting topic in our this current affairs program, The Brunch. Until then, goodbye for now.
Communication, connectivity is everything. We ensure that the links never sleep. Quantities and qualities, all in our data service, providing efficient, reliable voice and data service. We believe if you're not up to speed, then you're going backwards. Communications have to flow as fast as the speed of light. Whatever business you're in, having someone who understands your needs is critical. That is why we just don't offer you technology, we offer you solutions. Enjoy Gamcel's internet broadband anytime, anywhere. Your national operator, Gamcel, Yaibaram.
For all your pastry, bakery, and quality food, CK Restaurant is the only place to be. We do catering for birthdays, weddings, and all related services. We have all kinds of local foods, American, European, and even beyond. Come and have a taste of our local juice, ebe, and other services. At CK Restaurant, customer satisfaction is our priority.
We live in a day and age where technology is creating a world without borders, filled with unlimited potential to improve the lives of the people around us. Innovarex Global Health ushers in a new way of leveling the playing field with increased access to quality healthcare services delivered at your doorstep. Our qualified professionals are equipped with state-of-the-art point-of-care testing technology to conduct tests such as kidney function, liver function, electrolyte tests, body composition, hemoglobin, A1C, and many more services with the highest efficiency in delivering results. The addition to our flagship, Wellness on Wheels, more fondly known as WOW Delivery Service, brings the entire clinical experience full circle. IGH has remained committed to creating the future of healthcare delivery. Gone are the days of sending loved ones outside the country for basic medical services. Innovarex Global Health offers a new peace of mind and takes pride in delivering the quality of care we all deserve.